Welcome back to 20 Car. The Maserati MC20 has always sounded like an incantation whispered in a race engineer's chapel. The 2026 Unofficial Concept takes that prayer, stretches it into a howl, and robes it in carbon that reads like liquid sculpture. This is not a press release or a showroom brochure. It's a technical love letter to what a modern mid-engine Italian supercar could be when art and thermodynamics collide. Overview and design. Brief at first glance, the 2026 MC20 Unofficial. Concept respects the original MC20's tight mid-engine proportions and dramatic butterfly doors, but it pushes the envelope in surface language and aerodynamics. Think of the silhouette as choreography. Every crease a gesture, each intake and vent orchestrated to manage pressure recovery, boundary layer behavior, and heat extraction, in service of both downforce and the purity of form. The concept's bodywork is executed in a new multi-weave pre-preg carbon composite that alternates fiber orientations across panels to create variable stiffness zones. Panels are bonded rather than riveted, prioritizing torsional rigidity and the elimination of parasitics, aerodynamic noise. For context on the MC20's production design lineage and its carbon-intensive construction, see Maserati's model overview. Powertrain philosophy: Nettuno evolution, not revolution. Under the rear clamshell sits the soul of the MC20 family, the Maserati Nettuno architecture. The unofficial concept imagines a development path that keeps the Nettuno's essence, a 3.0-liter oxygen-hungry V6 with twin turbocharging and F1-derived pre-chamber combustion, while introducing hardware, and calibration changes that are plausible for 2026 evolution. In this speculative spec, the engine retains a high specific output, well north of 600 HP in tuned trim, and pairs with an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission. But the key changes are thermal management and responsiveness, low inertia turbochargers, ceramic matrix turbine housings, a reworked exhaust scavenging layout, and a bespoke heat exchange matrix that lowers intake air temperature without compromising packaging. Those conservative, performance-focused choices mirror how Maserati has historically kept the Nettuno as a core differentiator for the MC20 family. Chassis, suspension, and the pursuit of mechanical composure, where many concepts devolve into styling. Exercises: the 2026 MC20 Unofficial Concept treats suspension as a design discipline. The chassis is a bonded carbon fiber monocoque with integrated hydroformed subframes tuned to achieve a target dry weight below 1,450 kilograms in coupe trim. The front and rear wishbones are forged aluminum with a mixture of high-strength steel nodes where impact resistance is non-negotiable. Active suspension is present but intentionally limited. A predictive ride height and roll stiffness management system that uses forward-facing LiDAR and camera inputs to precondition damping and anti-roll moment distribution, milliseconds before the wheel meets the surface irregularity. The goal isn't to make the car float, it's to make the chassis behave predictably at both 40 mph on a stormy coastal road and 160 mph on a technical track. The MC20 lineage emphasizes lightweight construction and nimble dynamics. The concept extrapolates those priorities. Aerodynamics, rethought as a living system. The unofficial concept's aero architecture is more than static wings. It is a living, context-sensitive system. Rather than relying solely on a single rear wing, the car uses an array of morphing flaps integrated into the underbody, sills, and rear diffuser. These elements adapt to speed, yaw, and brake temperature to modulate a downforce while minimizing drag penalty during high-speed cruising. A dual personality where peak downforce is available for corners, but stripped away on straights for top speed compliance. The nose includes an adaptive splitter and front diffusers whose opening geometry varies with ride height to reduce front axle lift at speed without unsettling steering feedback. Cooling is solved with an intelligent partitioning system, cold. Air is routed to charge coolers and intercoolers via internal ducts, while hot air is expelled through pressure-balanced outlets that double as visual signatures. The result is aero that behaves like a finely tuned instrument rather than a blunt tool. Thermal engineering and packaging, the invisible art high-performance combustion engines demand ruthless thermal discipline. This concept treats heat as a first-class design constraint. Heat soak mitigation combines a multi-stage charge air cooler, a rear-mounted low-profile radiator pack, and an auxiliary oil cooler that sits in series with an intercooler bypass for track mode. Structural intake planums are splayed to reduce air temperature rise before the throttle body, and a ceramic thermal barrier coats the tunnel between engine and cabin. Packaging the thermal hardware required rerouting wiring looms into dedicated channels and adopting an external power distribution module to keep harnesses away from radiant heat. The cabin's HVAC system incorporates a regenerative strategy. Excess thermal energy from the powertrain can be harvested for cabin preconditioning and to accelerate catalytic converter light off after cold starts. human-machine interface, surgical. Simplicity, race-inspired ergonomics. The Unofficial Concept's Cockpit is a study in purposeful minimalism. The driving environment is centered on three things: the steering wheel, pedals, and a configurable information cluster. The wheel eschews unnecessary buttons in favor of two multi-position rotary switches, drive mode and engine map, and tactile. Paddles machined from aerospace-grade aluminum. The digital cluster is a high-refresh, low-latency unit that blends telemetry with contextual coaching. Tire temperatures, brake pad wear, predicted lap time delta, and a trust meter that displays chassis balance. The concept also proposes a simple mechanical seatbelt anchor point and a carbon bucket that's adjustable without electronics. The idea being that saving a few kilos of actuation hardware improves packaging and reduces complexity during endurance sessions. Acoustic strategy, the orchestration of sound. A Maserati is judged by its sound as much as its speed. The concept employs a multi-path acoustic architecture. Selective resonance chambers in the exhaust produce a richly layered harmonic spectrum, while an active intake flap system sculpts induction noise, rather than amplifying sound artificially. In the cabin, the car routes a tailored portion of this acoustic palette through tuned resonance ports, so the driver hears character where it matters, at the helm, while passengers experience a saner octave. The strategy respects noise regulations but preserves emotional content, a balance between compliance and catharsis, materials, finishes, and the tactile language. Externally, the car's carbon panels are finished with an iridescent lacquer that emphasizes curvature and depth. Internally, Alcantara, perforated fine grain leather, and anodized metal accents create a cockpit that's both tactile and purposeful. The choice of open-pore carbon trim around high contact points reduces glare and highlights the car's technical DNA. Attention to fastener exposure, seam alignment, and serviceability markers shows that this is not a one-off studio piece, but a product imagined for real ownership and maintenance. Electrification and hybrid strategy, a pragmatic compromise. Although Maserati publicly explored, electrified MC20 derivatives, market realities, and brand positioning have made full EV versions uncertain. The Unofficial Concept opts for a light hybrid approach that keeps the Nettuno power plant as the primary propulsion source, while adding a high-power, low-mass e-boost system. This unit provides instantaneous torque fill, recuperation for accessory, loads, and torque vectoring assistance during cornering, all without sacrificing the combustion engine's oral and thermal identity. The approach allows the car to meet stricter emissions norms and transient response targets without fully abandoning combustion purism, a compromise rooted in both customer expectation and engineering pragmatism.